Did the Big 12 save college football?
You're talking ball with the SEC squad. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up, you're part of the SEC squad.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into the SEC Squad Show. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get you ready for another week talking all things SEC. And today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Let's welcome in our squad this week. We've got a full show here. We got Stephen Willis from Locked On Ole Miss. We got John Neighbors from Locked On Razorbacks. We got Corey Burton from Locked On Vandy. John Miller from Locked On Mizzou. Jimmy Stein from Locked On Bama. And Clint Chambliss joining us from Locked On Bulldogs. I'm Chris Gordy, host of Locked On SEC. And fellas, look, this is the topic that took over the world of college football the last couple of weeks. But this week, embattled quarterback Brendan Sorsby was nudged by Texas Tech to give up his fight to play college football and move on to the NFL. And despite having admitted to thousands of gambling violations, including betting on his own team, a Lubbock County judge had barred the NCAA from preventing him to play. But after tons of national outrage, he will not play any more college football. The Big 12 seemed like they were on the path to taking a stand here. So, guys, I asked the question, did the Big 12 save the world of college football here, standing up for what was right?
Yes, absolutely they did. But it's not what I think everybody thinks it was. I don't think that Brendan Sorsby was going to play football this fall. There was too much outrage and everything was there like against it. The Big 12 proved that a conference could stand up to one of its member institutions and do something that the NCAA was incapable of doing. What we need, the Protect College Sports Act that they're going to be talking about today, you don't necessarily need that. The conferences proved that they could prevent bad things from happening when they band together and if they can avoid the, hey, we're better than you type thing. And I do think they saved college football that way.
No, they did absolutely not. Here's why. The Big 12 stepped in to try to power arm or power leverage a team into guilt and shaming not to do something. What should have happened is the lawsuit should have gone. It should have been court filed, and it should have been the Big 12 standing over them saying, I have the right here. Without that, nothing's going to change. College football needs a giant reset. And now that they did what they did and got away with it with a slap on the wrist, it's publicly shaming. It looks bad. It's horrible PR. Texas Tech is the worst of us. But nothing actually happened to Texas Tech. And so now what it means is if you get behind a room and you threaten somebody and you back down, it's going to be okay. What should have happened is, no, let's suffer consequences. Let's blow this thing up. Let's get some institution that has actual teeth to it. They saved this season and next season, but what needs to happen is giant reform. And they just kicked the can down a little bit. And now we have to go to politicians to solve things. That's going to be the worst thing in the world.
Well, I can tell you this just from my perspective. If I don't know if anybody's ever watched The Office, but there's an episode where Michael and Dwight are trying to save the office from shutting down, and they camp out outside the house, and then they end up not getting shut down. And then they're like, we did it, even though they had nothing to do with it. They say they did it. And that's how it reminds me of kind of like the Big 12. It's like, I'm not going to give the Big 12 credit for taking the easiest W you could possibly take. Everybody was against this. It's not like they stood up for justice and the kid bet on sports. He bet on the game that he's playing. This was the easiest call. So it's really hard for me to sit here and be like, wow, Big 12, you guys really did some things. You stood up for all this. No, this was the easiest thing you could ever stand up for. And it was the dumbest thing that it even had to come to this. I don't know if anybody needs to be thanked or if anybody saved anything, because I agree it needs a hard reset. This is a bad look for everybody. And the fact that I still cannot get over that those clowns sat there, 5 of them around a table, did a 22-minute video talking about this kid and how he needs help and all this stuff. And then, I mean, it ends up being a big nothing burger. He ends up not playing anyways. I'd like to know the ratio of how many of those types of videos have been released in college athletics where it actually panned out and worked out. where that's what they wanted to accomplish, whatever was in those videos. But this is a disaster. It's disgusting. It's stupid. And I'm glad he's not playing, but I'm with you too. Nothing really happened. Nothing really changed. It's just something that sucks right now about college athletics.
I'm just glad it's over. And it just was getting exhausting, and just everything that was coming out about it, and just the fact that things were going to have to kind of go in an ugly route. It just, I don't know. I'm just relieved it's over. I don't know that I agree with John. I agree with Clint. I don't know that you can give anybody credit. You're just happy that the situation it's like a storm that just passed on by. It sucked. It still sucks. Nothing changed except, a few things were blown over, and here we are. So just glad it's over, and glad to just put it in the rear view and just keep moving forward.
I can't help but think that the Big 12's filing led to a conversation between Brendan Sorsby and his agent, or Sorsby and his lawyers, that, hey, there's a chance now that you will not be allowed to play this fall, and the NFL supplemental draft deadline is next week. We need to make a move here. You could be stuck without a team this fall. I think at this point, the wise thing is to enter the draft. I don't want to give any credit to Texas Tech for that. I can't help but think that this was Sorsby and his team, his agents, his lawyers. Basically, they're the ones waving the white flag as a result of the Big 12's filing, and concerned that he would be stuck without a football team at all this fall unless he entered the draft now.
And what's worse about all this is none of this would have happened had the booster not threatened to sue, because his threat to sue enabled the Big 12 to preemptively declare for legal action. If he didn't say it, none of this would have happened. We have a whole different situation possibly, which is so stupid of him. He can't help himself. But I agree. It was likely selfishness on Sorby's part that actually made this thing go through.
I will say, no matter how we got here, it does feel like a rare W for actual sanity in college football here in the 2020s. So I'll take it however I can get it. I will say, in theory, I agree with everybody who says college football needs a reset. It does sort of feel like the ultimate be careful what you wish for a little bit, because in all of the change of college football in the 2020s, it feels like a lot of people haven't loved it. What does that reset look like? Who decides it? To other people's points there, I definitely don't want Congress deciding it, no matter which side of the aisle it is, or even if it's bipartisan, that may be even worse.
And the NCAA needs to go away. Any reset needs to be a new organization that is built to handle this particular situation, not an organization founded to handle the student athlete situation of the 1960s. There's just too much going on.
New leadership with a concrete set of rules. I mean, what's crazy is we have rules right now, and it's like whenever we don't like a rule, everyone agreed to the rules, but every time we don't like a rule, we go to a local judge to overturn it. And no offense to Trinidad Chambliss, I think his is way less tame, looking for an extra year of eligibility. Same with Owen Heineke at Oklahoma. Same with Diego Pavia and the JUCO thing. I think that's a way lesser problem than what Sorsby did. But of course, now we've opened Pandora's box. Like, now what other big rule are we going to just say, we want to overrule that? And that's where the NCAA needs to get a hold of this thing.
Well, the NCAA caused this thing. Whenever they're giving people 9th years of eligibility and everything going on, eventually people are going to start fighting back in the only way that they know how, whenever they selectively enforce things or think things are getting selectively enforced. You know the joke around there. The NCAA was so mad at Kentucky basketball that they put Cleveland State on 3 years of probation. That's a joke from 50 years ago. So by the time it got to the 2000, into the 2010, people were getting pretty fed up. And now that there's a dollar amount attached to it, they were going to take it seriously.
Well, I want to also throw in this too. I think it's a big part of like the tribalism that goes on really in society as it is, where it's like each school and its own like community. Like, we love college sports, we love college fan bases. We all have very strong ones. But then when it seems like every single thing that comes out, of course, some more serious than others, it's like the entire college football or college athletics landscape against that one school. And I'm talking about not only just the fan base, I'm talking about the donors, I'm talking about the media, the local media there. It's happened with Alabama, it's happened with Ole Miss, and now it's happening with Texas Tech. And again, I'm not trying to like downplay it or say that there's not, things that are different about these circumstances, but I think that that's also what adds fuel to the fire, is because people in these small local communities, they are the biggest deal. They're fighting for something, and that almost empowers them even more to push it instead of just looking at it through the, like, is this what's right? Is this what's good? It's more about what I can get away with anything because I have money. So therefore I can do whatever I want. And it causes a problem to where people just don't use common sense. And instead of just want to, you know, drop their nuts on the table and be like, see how much money I have because I'm so powerful. It's just made it bad all around.
That's exactly right. The unintended consequences that nobody realizes. NIL is great for the players, but guess who comes chasing when money is involved? Every other person who could benefit off these players. So without any structure beforehand, we open the floodgates. And of course, they're going to come boosters lobbying for insanity because it gets them money and they then force the trickle down effect all the way over. And without thinking through the consequences, we said yes before we were ready, and we're lying in the bed that we made.
Yeah, and speaking of unintended consequences, the players' associations of every professional league are trying to be on board with what this Congress is saying. Coincidentally, they're talking about pooling media rights to where you could collectively bargain and strike and join a players' union. I think that's the unintended consequences of what happened today.
Yeah, well, I don't think the SEC is ever going to get on board with the pooling of the media rights thing, and that's why I think they're going to have to pull that out of the Protect College Sports Act if they ever want that to get passed. But I will say, you know, we started with this: should the Big 12 deserve some credit? I do think we were going to go down a path that was going to force Brett Yormark to put his foot down and say, I, as the commissioner of the Big 12, are ruling Brendan Sorsby ineligible, because we saw Ken Paxton, the AG of Texas, step up. But in the past few days, we saw Oklahoma, Kansas, their state representatives step up and say, hey, BS, we're suing if you're going to sue us, we're going to sue your ass. So I think we were headed down a real dangerous path where the Big 12 was going to have to choose. It's all of us against Texas Tech.
And you know, the thing is, I'm always going to make this about Arkansas, but, you know, John Calipari, head coach of Arkansas, this is exactly what he was talking about just, you know, mere months ago when he was saying, oh, all these lawsuits coming out, all these problems. He says, let them file lawsuits. Let them come after us. Stop backing down whenever you hear the word lawsuit and you just get so scared to death. Like, you're the SEC or you're the Big 12 or you're whoever. Stop falling short. Oh, what, some judge in Lubbock, Texas or wherever? Like, are you really going to be scared of that? Stand up for what's right and have some backbone. And I think that that's something that people need to start doing. And I'm hoping maybe this is a little bit of a precedent too, where it's like, hey, you still do have some power. You just have to use it instead of just being so concerned about any sort of lawsuit or legal trouble that you may be in. You have lawyers too, and I guarantee you they're better than most of these ones that are going to go up against them. Let them have it. Let them sort it out, because a lot of times they'll buckle and call your bluff.
100%.
Well, hey, look, I'm all for player empowerment and NIL and players getting paid and all that, but I'm still angry at Ed O'Bannon making the college football game disappear for a decade. But
well, I'm mad at him for making the dadgum shot against UCLA over Missouri and cost Arkansas a 1995 national championship in basketball for back-to-back. But, you know, different things.
There was that. All right, when we return here, guys, we will we'll actually talk some ball. We're a couple of weeks away from football getting started, and there's some big, important quarterback battles going on in the SEC. We'll talk about that coming your way next. Hey, but first, we got to let you know about our friends over at Odoo. Running a business should not feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. It's almost like the NCAA, all these different hands in different boxes. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales. And somehow none of them talk to each other. And that's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform, from sales, accounting, inventory, marketing. Everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Look at what the Big 12 just did. They all came together against Brendan Sorsby and Texas Tech. They all had to be working part of the same organization, had to be aligned that this was the best decision moving forward. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Check them out today. We're along here, our Locked On SEC Squad Show. I want to remind you guys, if you want to become an everydayer, you can check us out at lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Pick your favorite SEC squad show from Locked On, and you can become an everydayer and get it your show ad-free, get exclusive access to our Discord channel where you can talk to some of our hosts like Steven and Corey and Clint and Jimmy and berate them if you want. That is lockedonpodcast.com/everyday. Fellas, we are getting closer to the start of fall camp, and we have several prominent SEC quarterback battles still going on. The four most prominent, I would say, Alabama, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee. So I open it to you guys. Which one intrigues you most?
I'll start Tennessee because, it's going to be kind of curious to what they're going to do. They have a stud freshman with a high ceiling in Faison Brandon and George MacIntyre. What do they do there? Do they start MacIntyre and halfway through the season, if he's not getting it done, do they go to Faison Brandon? Of course, that's going to affect the battle of I-40 there with Vanderbilt and Tennessee. So that one's going to be a good in-state quarterback battle that I'm interested in for sure.
I think it's Alabama for this reason. I see, you guys may disagree, and that's fine. I see 7 teams that I would consider real contenders to win the SEC. 7: Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, A&M, Alabama, and LSU. Alabama is the only one of the 7 that doesn't have a set starting quarterback. So I think the Alabama one is the most important one and the biggest one. And it is a 50-50 battle. I know there's a lot of sentiment out there that it's going to be Keelon Russell. I believe ultimately Keelon Russell will be the starting quarterback, but it is a tight, contested battle. The good news for Alabama fans, I don't think it's a situation where either kid hasn't stepped up to win the job. I think the staff is going to be comfortable with either one. The way that they're playing, I think they're comfortable with both guys. But they only want one quarterback. Eventually, one quarterback is going to win the job. I believe it will be Keelon, but you could potentially even go into the season with it being unsettled.
Yeah, for me, it's really interesting because Alabama, look, Kalen DeBoer, good hire, bad hire. I actually think he does fine in the offensive system, getting the ball out to skill players. It's a totally different identity than what Alabama was. I think any quarterback's going to find success in his system. So who it is eventually, yeah, they're going to have success. I do believe in Kalen DeBoer in that. And the same thing with Tennessee. Look, Josh Heupel makes quarterbacks throw for just thousands of yards in that system. I'm not concerned about that as well. For me, it's Florida. And the reason being because we have a whole new shift once more, a coach coming up from lower conference, trying to do his thing. But it does seem like I actually like what Summerall's doing a little bit. I think there's a cultural shift. I think he's adding some good pieces. And the quarterback position at one point was a guarantee one guy, and all of a sudden there's huge confusion back and forth on what that actually means. Florida does have a lot of talent. I think the best running back in the SEC is in Florida. And so if they have a great running game as well as a quarterback that's competent at that point, Florida can ruin a couple people's seasons, not make the playoff, but ruin somebody's season, a couple things. And then that progresses them for year 2 in Summerall.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. If you look at what John Summerall did at Tulane, he had a similar quarterback quandary that happened to what is going on down in Gainesville, and he made it work all the way to the playoffs. So I think that the ceiling is higher potentially with the returning player, but Philo is the comfort factor with the offensive coordinator. I think at the end of the day, if they can get that right, they are going to be a much better team than they are getting credit for at this point.
Yeah, Summerall's the psycho that they need down there in Gainesville to kind of get it done. I mean, he fits perfectly to what that team has had an amazing roster, but Billy Napier's just fallen asleep at the wheel and crashed it into the ditch. And John Summerall is going to get it back on the track. I don't know if it's going to necessarily happen in year 1. But that's going to be a fun team or an interesting team to kind of watch and see kind of what they do throughout the course of the season. That Auburn game to kick off their SEC slate is going to be one that's going to probably set the tone for their season. And if they go in there and win that, they could have a pretty nice season for down the stretch.
Especially Jordan Hare at night.
Yeah,
we all know that place is built on a graveyard.
Well, you know what, Corey, since you were talking, I'm going to go a little bit off the board, and also, of course, to just be a little passive-aggressive toward Gordy here. I'm going to go a little bit off the board. But with Vanderbilt, I'm curious to see Jared Curtis. I assume he's going to win the job. The smart money is there. I want to see him wrap it up, really. I mean, I'm not questioning or anything that Clark Lee hasn't named in the starter already. A true freshman. He was, the second-rated guy in the country out of high school. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious to see how quickly he can grab the reins of that starting job. I think it'll happen at some point in 2026. Is it week 1? Is it the start of camp? Is it next week? When does that happen? I'm really curious to see that because, man, he is a guy who not only has a lot of talent, a lot of confidence too, saying he's going to win a title with Vandy.
Yeah, I think to your point, John, he's kind of slow playing that. I think he's playing some mind games with Jared Curtis and just kind of making him feel like he has to earn it when we all know he's going to be the starter. Like that's just a given. I mean, he went ahead and Clark Lee in an article with SI compared him to a combination of Jay Cutler and Matt Stafford. So, I mean, take that as you will.
And then commitment without him. Like, I think the promise was given. He's going to play immediately. Yes. Like, I don't think. Yeah, you saw Blaze Berlowitz in the spring game. He wasn't very good. So I think
it's all performative, Chris. It really is. He's going to be the starter week 1. He got a perfect schedule to ramp up to the Auburn game with Austin Peay, Delaware, and NC State. I mean, it's a perfect, progression.
Is there a Muschamp in the running for the Commodores as well? Am I wrong?
Unfortunately, no.
No,
he struggled in the spring.
Okay, so he is there.
He's there.
He's there. He just.
I just had to bring it up because of the Corey resemblance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my son is there. He struggled a little bit this spring, but
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So Gordy mentions 4 teams, and we get 3 teams, and then another team that didn't even get mentioned. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Great. Take that, neighbors.
Yeah, I'm about to say I'm going to offer 5 free subscriptions to any of you jokers not named Chris Gordy that even know the 2 quarterbacks battling out at Arkansas, because odds are you're going to struggle to come up with some names. You're going to have to phone a friend for all that stuff.
AJ Hill from Montgomery. Kid from Montgomery, KJ from Montgomery.
Right? Yeah, listen, we'll take it, I guess. I mean, crying out loud. But so let me just go ahead and represent myself because I'm always the odd man out here. Arkansas, definitely the most interesting quarterback battle there ever was in the SEC. Mainly due to you got 2 players that were highly regarded coming out of high school. They're kind of similar in their builds and everything. However, KJ Jackson was a guy from the team last year that did start a game, have some sort of play whenever Taylon Green was not able to. But you also have AJ Hill, who followed Ryan Silverfield from Memphis. So you have kind of a battle going on there, and they're refusing to even mention who's going to be the starter. But I think it's going to be KJ Jackson. I think it's going to be him pretty much for many different reasons. But that's one of the biggest ones, is just knowing that he's been there, he's by default. And also, when Silverfield was hired, the guy that he had 2 players with him on Arkansas's roster that he was having rejoin him. Quincy Rhodes, which was a huge get, and KJ Jackson. I honestly don't think you do that unless you plan on him starting. So he's going to be the starter for all of you that care out there. Arkansas is going to have KJ Jackson being the starting quarterback for Arkansas.
I named AJ Hill. Do I get a half subscription?
No.
Let's welcome in Chris Marler from Locked On Gamecocks. Marler, you chime in here real quick.
Sakes.
SEC quarterback battle you are most intrigued by?
Arkansas. Have you guys heard about KJ Jackson? He's awesome.
Somebody was backstage.
He's awesome, dude. The one I'm most intrigued by is Tennessee. I think the Tennessee one's interesting because I think you're having a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. Neither one of them have a ton of starting or a ton of college experience, obviously, or at least a second-year guy. I don't know if he's a redshirt freshman. I like 2 very different names. One sounds like my neighbor that's in the HOA, George MacIntyre. And the other one, I always mix up the last name first. But I will say that first-year quarterbacks in Heupel's offenses tend to do really, really well. The one that performed the most underwhelmingly, if that's a word, is Nico. And so I think that would be interesting because if they have a good defense this year, I think that they can lean on Deshaun Bishop and get those guys to come along.
Underrated, under the radar one is Kentucky. I actually think Kentucky is doing some things. I really do. It's weird how much energy is over there. And a couple of transfers from Marshall as well from Notre Dame. I think Minchie could go ahead and get that. And depending on how they are, Kentucky has a good base. They have always been hard. They have some players that like to play. If they have any quarterback that's competent, new coaching staff comes in and has any competency, because that's been a just black hole of suck for a very long time, they might be able to move the needle on something.
Yeah, their schedule's brutal, though. Absolutely brutal.
For $100, can anyone name the guy battling with Kenny Minchie for the starting job at Kentucky?
KJ Jackson. Oh.
No. L'Aquarius? No, that's not his name. Give it to us, Gordy.
I think it's Jaquay Long is how it's, but he's from Marshall, so it's going to be It's going to be Minchie, even if they haven't named him. the starter. But when we return, guys, how important is recruiting? Not what it once was. We'll discuss that next. SEC squad, roll along here, fellas. We've been talking a lot on recruiting. It's been a hot couple of weeks these last 3 weeks, and this upcoming week with still decisions to be made, announcements to be made. But I was talking with some buddies who were like, "Man, I just don't follow recruiting like I used to." So I asked the question to you guys: how much does it still matter in this transfer portal era? Obviously, it's still important, but it just seems like when your team loses a commitment, it's not the jump off a bridge kind of, oh my God, despair that it used to be. So how important is it, do you guys think?
It's still important. I mean, it's one of those things. Coaches want to build from the high school level up and everything that train. But the difference is, used to back in the day, me and Corey used to work for Rivals. The biggest day of the calendar year was signing day, where we would get there at 4 a.m. and we would leave at 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was absolutely amazing. It's not that. It's not the competitive thing of, hey, oh, we got this guy and you didn't get him, because they were locked in for 4 years. Now, basically, you've signed a high school player. You just want to finish in the top 2 in recruiting. Because if they get upset, if they get homesick, if there's a problem at their next location and get in the portal, you're the top candidate. You can still get that guy 9 times right now, depending on what happens with what happened today. 9 opportunities to get a guy if you didn't get him in high school recruiting. And it's crazy to think of, but yeah, it means something for something positive, but it doesn't necessarily mean what it used to negatively, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 2017, Georgia had this incredible Christmas Day drop that happened. There was Richard LeCount, there was Jake Fromm, there was this whole host, and it was the Santa, it was a production. They all got together. It was incredible, and I was watching every single thing. I was still driving home from vacation to see my family, and I was just bated breath waiting for every single announcement or news that was coming. That's gone now, and what you have to do is it's much like a stock IPO. It's like all of a sudden everybody goes to SpaceX and gets excited for getting that stock. And everybody else is sitting there trying to figure out, how do I allocate my resources with some high performing things that's going to bring me money in the long term? That's what it's become. Everybody's getting all excited about a couple of 5-star kids are going to garner all of it. Kirby Smart, I just talked about this on the pod this week, has 10 3-star guys in this class. He's top 10 now, was at 33, bumped up to top 10. He has 10 3-stars because what he's doing is he is zigging when everybody else is zagging. The market is going one way, and he's saying to himself, I'm going to trust my talent evaluation and my development on these guys who I don't have to go drop bags for. Like all y'all are going to do. Go waste your money. Go buy that brand new car, that thing, that whatever you want. I'm going to go get the Honda Accord. That's going to continue. Chris, you shut your hole.
I don't know if we should be using car metaphors here, brother.
I will continue to use car. Do you want me to? I have a whole list of all the infractions of everybody else besides Georgia and how nobody counts on it. But I digress. I'm a sick individual that does that.
No, it's
the Honda Accord is still a quality thing that can get you from A to B and still win. And that's what Kirby Smart's doing, hoping that it transforms into something else. So it is important for those who actually know any longer. I hate saying that. Like, ball knowers are excited about signing classes because you have to dig a little deeper.
It is.
If the Honda Accord gets developed, it turns into one of those Fast and the Furious cars, right?
It's important, no doubt. It's still important, but I think with free agency, with 1 year deals, and everyone's a free agent every year, the NFL draft is incredibly popular. It's probably never been more popular. Imagine if the NFL draft, you have to redraft the whole league every April. I mean, interest in that would decline. And the problem with interest in recruiting is just simply recruiting never ends. Because of the portal, you recruit a kid for 3 years in high school, he commits to your rival, signs with your rival, you're recruiting him the next day to enter the portal the next cycle. So recruiting never ends because of the portal. And for that, I think interest in recruiting has waned. But to the coaching staffs, recruiting is still very, very important. Otherwise, these programs in the SEC wouldn't spend the millions that they do in evaluating, scouting, hiring a recruiting department, and then literally paying the kids.
Well, as one of the only places that can really say that their recruiting classes haven't improved in the NIL era, it's been pretty much the same over here. But I can tell you this, that the people that say, recruiting doesn't matter as much, are you boneheaded idiots that have all the success that you're like, it doesn't matter anyways. I mean, we're going to get somebody else anyways. We're going to get another 5-star. Must be nice to have that type of element to it. But a place like Arkansas, for instance, recruiting does matter in the way of saying that, hey, you're trying to build some, trying to lay a foundation. But the problem is, and in the national landscape of college athletics, especially in college football, when you would have a freshman before, very seldom, very few players that were freshmen would step on the field immediately and have an impact. I mean, there was the very few, if you had guys at Alabama, like Darren McFadden, for instance, at Arkansas was one of the ones that stand out. But now it's like, okay, you got excited because they could add a little bit of an impact, but it was really going to be that year 2 and 3 that it was going to be exciting. But now it's like, okay, you can add a freshman, even if they're a great impact player. That's all great, but you can go and get a portal guy right now, and he'll be better, and he'll be immediately more suited to have success on the field at that position. So it's not necessarily that it's not as important. It's just they have something else. They have a shinier new toy that they think is a lot more important that can have a much quicker impact, which is what people want. They don't want to wait. They don't want to have patience. They want something right now, and that's what portal can do for you.
Yep. You know, one thing that was kind of funny is like back when I used to work for Coach O, we would always start the season with a meeting, and then it was the recruiting is over meeting. It's about to get real meeting. And now I imagine that they just can't have that meeting because they have to continue sending the kid through recruiting the whole time.
I think the bigger thing, because it's like, I mean, one, also, Clint, congrats on all those bad players y'all signed.
Thank you.
But the other part of it is, I think, like the more important component from the coaching staff standpoint is the financial part of it. And that is, how much are you committing to the high school ranks versus the portal? And are you able to balance that? Because like, I mean, thank God I'm not a coach, because the fiscal responsibility part of this is like one of the most important parts now. And that is not my strong suit. And I think
that's why you hire a GM.
Right. But and I think that the bigger thing too is like, I mean, you look at some of these, like Georgia obviously getting 3 stars. Usually when Georgia gets 3 stars, everyone else should worry because they've like evaluated the talent a lot better than other people have, and they're going to end up being studs in a couple of years. But the development part of this, I think, is a bigger part too, where Georgia's like an anomaly because players don't really leave Georgia. Like they're not constantly looking for other like pieces to add unless it's like a piece like Zachariah Branch or somebody that can like do a lot of dynamic things for them. I think the high school part of it's so interesting because, one, it's for the fan, it's impossible to have the same level of excitement as you did before, because you know that there's an element to this where it just doesn't matter. And I hate to say that because it's like there was a commit this week that South Carolina was really involved in, and he ends up going to LSU, and somebody on one of the sides said to me, I was like, man, that kind of sucks. I was hoping he's going to land at Carolina. It's like, well, you'll get him in 2 years. And I think so the bigger story for the fan base is like, it's hard to keep up with and get super excited because like it used to be decommitments that suck so bad, but now it's like all the ups and downs, and they don't stay in the program for a long time. Most of them don't want to develop. But the bigger component for the coaches in the staffs and programs is how are you able to allocate that money? Because if you're signing a bunch of 5-star players and you're not Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Oregon, or a program like that where you can just throw out money year over year, you really have to be smart with that. Otherwise, you're going to cripple yourselves.
Yep. Yeah, that's why Kirby Smart, again, his bags are dropped for juniors and seniors, and he's been very unapologetic about it. He does not think that anybody who's a freshman should have any amount of money more than a junior or a senior, and so that's where he's allocating his NIL. And if he's not getting in the bidding race, if somebody who's a freshman who's not stepped foot on campus, and we don't know how the grind's going to go, that number 1 class from Georgia that went on to win the 21 and 22 championship, the best players from that were the 3 stars, Jordan Davis, Christopher Smith, Stetson Bennett. Those are the guys that impacted. Now, of course, Jalen Carter's in there, and he's an all-world kind of guy. But what's incredible about that is once you find the guys and you develop them, you can go ahead and do something with it. And so, yes, at the beginning, and everybody knows that too. Like Georgia fans know it. There's just been this kind of dead, numb feeling when a recruit goes ahead and commits. We go, well, let's wait till he's on campus. That's the feeling now instead of excitement.
Well, I think you made a great point, though, about the 3 stars, because Lane Kiffin's quote a few weeks ago was, why would we pay top dollar for a 4 or 5-star freshman who's barely going to play for him to leave in a year? That's not money well spent. I do think a lot of the 3 stars, we talk about all the money being spent. I think there's a lot of 3 stars not getting, or getting the old fashioned books and a scholarship and, hey, a promise of development. You may play in the next 4 years. I think there's still that player. And that's a fascinating road to go down. Is if you're still investing in those guys, that 3-star could. I mean, go back to the old school players that used to. Morris Claiborne was a 3-star, or Tyrann Mathieu at LSU, and they developed into future NFL players. So I still think there are those guys, but you can't completely pass on the 4-star and 5-star kids that are really good for a reason.
Yeah. Well, I just think that any coach or anybody that's approaching it and saying that's like, well, we're really going to find the diamonds in the rough, the guys that just want to wear it on the side of their helmet, and they're really hungry and motivated. Yeah, that's great, good for you. But you still need dudes, you still need players, and I think that any coach that really approaches it that way and continues to say that, I'm not talking about any coach in particular, but any coach that continues to say that stuff, I don't think the fan bases want to hear that. They don't want to hear about, no, we're going to go after the 3-stars. Well, why? Because they got great personalities. It's like that, your buddy's trying to introduce you to a blind date. It's like, oh, man, is she hot? Well, she's got a great personality. No, don't want that. I need the hot chick. So that's what people are feeling on it.
What he's saying is spending that money instead of on the 5-star freshman who's barely going to play, we're going to go spend the money in the portal. So you're
correct.
You're supplementing with the portal, but you're not completely giving up on recruiting.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying is like when it just comes to the high school recruiting is all I'm saying is like if you just approach it of like we're going to go all in and get the 4 and 5 stars out of the portal, but high school recruiting just 3 stars. I don't think that's a really good recipe for success.
Kirby Smart has Jackson Dollar and Spell 2 5-stars inside the top 25 national recruit, and those are likely going to be the 5-stars of this class. Everybody else is going to be 4-star and 3-star in that. He's going to go ahead and drop the bags for them, to your point, because you still need those dudes. And they've identified 2 guys that he feels very confident are locked in, canceled all official visits, and he says, okay, I don't have to keep selling them on Georgia every time I show up at it. Now I can go elsewhere. You're exactly right. It's Jimmy's and Joe's. We know that all day long. X's and O's gets you somewhere, Iowa, but it's Jimmy and Joe's. You're not going to be able to win anything if you don't have the players to do it.
Well, I certainly hope that Georgia finds a way to overcome the obstacles that they go through over there.
I hope they can finally have a good recruiting class.
Yeah. Well, you got A&M going all in and getting every 5-star out there.
That feels dumb.
And they still won't win.
We've seen it fail at A&M. It's failed. Like not like this isn't the same Nick Saban.
The last 5 years,
we've seen it fail like spectacularly, like at A&M pretty recently. So
you say that, Marler. I'm curious. I want to read the verbiage on they've gotten smarter with NIL deals and all this. I'm wondering if there's some verbiage in there, maybe locking these kids in past 1 year.
So a lot of that I can tell you from at least one of the programs I cover, they have started doing the 2-year deal. Like there's because otherwise there's no reason to. And there's a couple of these like that has with 5-stars where it's like if you're gonna sign a kid and you're gonna pay him 1.5, it might be 1.5 over 2 years. Clint, Georgia just gave up another hit and run.
Thanks, appreciate it.
But yeah, I think, and that's also that. I kind of do wish that I want the kids to have like a lot of like power and be able to do what they want to do. And I know how bad it was forever, blah, blah, but we still need some parameters. I'm really hoping at some point they will go back to like, all right, you have one transfer like in undergrad and that's it. And then that way you can start locking in some of these deals. Cause that's really what you need. Like Jimmy's point earlier was a great point where he said, like having the entire league restart every single year with a draft is insane. And that's basically what we're doing with college sports right now.
Mahomes would get a ton if we did that. All right, fellas.
The Falcons would pay him $1.5 billion 2 years after he retired.
You think Imagine being a fan.
Imagine being
Dylan Raiola is trying to figure out how to get to Texas Tech right now.
Could be.
All here's a bunch of nonsense because all of y'all's teams have been successful. So shut up. Like you guys act like it's just like,
you're right, dude. You're right, bro.
This draft, it's just not good for college football as we go to the playoffs last year. I don't like going to the playoffs not 2 years in a row.
Thing get you all the hot chicks that you're begging for? Does this stick actually work with the ladies? This is what I'm wondering.
Well, I'm single and I'm 37. So what do you think there, Clint? Yeah. I'm over here rolling in it. Every time I spit, there's a girl there to catch it. Yeah, that's what it's at. That's how great it is.
That's hot.
Well, I will admit that if anything gets fixed in college football, I worry about where Ole Miss will land because they've actually done very well in this era.
Well, we'll
maybe some newcomers in this era. They're starting to recruit more 4-stars, so that's exciting.
Remember to follow and subscribe to your favorite SEC shows. We'll be covering your favorite team every day throughout the offseason. Don't forget, I'll have you covered on the entire conference every day with Locked On SEC. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. covering your team every day. And reminder, John Neighbors' DMs are open.
Hot chicks only.